Hi, engineers. This is Professor Dan at the University of Colorado Boulder. And today we're going to talk a little bit about communication and what that means to engineers. And we're going to focus on written communication today. Maybe we'll make another video with presentations and things like that. So, communication. So, as engineers, we're communicating all the times. And so, what we often see is that we have formal presentations, we have reports, we have these things that are often more formal in our jobs as engineers, but we're always communicating. There might be informal discussions and emails. So today we're just going to focus on um, let's just focus on reports. We've got a report due in some classes, so let's just get there. So we have let's say we're building something, so we might build a space plane or a SRAM rocket. Um, and in class, we say there are three steps to prototyping. And what are those? That's making it work better, and making it pretty. We can kind of apply the same thing to our reports. We're the first time we write something, it's probably not going to be too great. So it's probably good to iterate on it, clean up that wording. And then the last thing is, yeah, making it pretty, doing that stuff, that little things that might take us 5 minutes that really make a report stand out. So when we have our report, oftentimes we have our first report, and that first iteration, one of the things we want to do whenever we're an engineer and we're writing our first report is we got to remember that reports stand on their own. So always make sure to have an introduction, restate the challenge. This is true for reports, this is true for your homework. Throw in a summary of important results. Sometimes people call this an abstract, and I'm not going to get too into technical terms. This is intended for, sort of first semester, first year students writing their first reports. So make sure it stands on its own. Make sure you don't just jump in and describe what you know you did. Make sure the reader of the report understands what the assignment was. So yeah, restate the assignment and then yeah, throw in the most important things in that intro. Then talk about what you did. And this is where make sure you have figures and tables. Make sure they're addressed in the body text. And then at the end, always have a conclusion, always have a concluding statement. So, yeah, don't assume background knowledge. All right. So, what are some other things that we can do? So, the key is every report stands on its own. And then tell a story. Now, Princess Bride is a pretty popular story. It's pretty fanciful, but it doesn't have to be fanciful. But even if you're just doing something technical, think about a story. A story has flow. Story introduces characters before they do things. So make sure if you're talking about a design, make sure you're talking about your design and so the user knows what you're doing before you talk about the improvements that you made. Make sure figure two comes before figure one. And make sure when you have data in tables, make sure you're talking about that in the text of the report. So things like figures, things like pictures, and things like tables add to the report, but make sure that the user is reading your body text and you're walking them along and telling your story. As engineers, this is my favorite part about being an engineer. We're rewarded for being concise. So ask yourself along the way, can you use less words to say the same thing? When we're engineers, we're not writing The Princess Bride. We're telling a story in the most concise way possible. One of the things we often have trouble with is the tense. So, yeah, the verb tense. Just try to stay consistent and make sure we're using grammar. Then the other thing is make it pretty. So that's the thing. Just because it's a technical report doesn't mean that formatting doesn't matter. So, yeah, make sure our tables, we have the captions correct. And our figures, we have our captions correct. And we're embedding the figures so that it looks good. We're not just throwing figures in all willy-nilly and expecting the user to know what they are. But one thing I want to make clear is that a technical report is not an English paper. I'm not judging English papers, but a technical report, be concise, be concise, be complete. and be factual. Now, I don't think you should be lying in an English paper, but use use facts, use results, use things that are factual. We're not being subjective. We're saying we had a task, this is the task, this is what the task accomplished, here's what happened. You can think of factual as also being data driven. Use data. All right. So, but remember, our technical report is not an English paper. All right. So, you need to write a report. Where do you start? And so here's where we think the design process, and you can review that design process in an earlier video. But the number one thing is where we start is who's the user? Who are you writing the report for? Is it for your manager? Is it for a teacher? Is it a homework or is it a report? Are you writing it for a client? Or maybe it's a journal article, or maybe it's a children's classroom. So think about before you do anything, who are you writing this for? Why are you writing it? So now we have what are the stages? So I don't know about you, but writing's not my favorite part about being an engineer, but it's one of these things that when we do it well, not if, but when we do it well, it will differentiate us as engineers. If we're an engineer that can write, it's like a superpower. And so if we think about the iterative process, we make it work better, we make it pretty. One of the things is kind of like we prototype or prototype. Yeah, pre-write. Think about what you want to write before you write it, then edit it and revise. And I'm going to say the more important the report is, the more you're going to have to do that revision. So what does it mean to pre-write? So yeah, think about who your user is. Think about what tables and figures you need. So we want to do that often before we even start the project so we know to take pictures. We know, oh, we need data. So when we're doing our testing, we're making sure to get the data so that we have it for our report. We think about how it should flow and what ideas and themes should be included. Then we write it. So I always like to do a brief outline, or oftentimes in class, we're given an outline. This is our intro report. You're actually given an outline. So yeah, we have that outline. How are we going to flesh it out? This is where we can often break it up if we're working on a team. We can build some sentences around ideas and expect several drafts. Then we got to edit. And what's the key to editing? Fresh eyes. If you write it, you're going to read what you think you wrote, not what you actually wrote. So have fresh eyes. Fresh eyes make it easier to revise. So yeah, if you wrote it, have a teammate rewrite it. And if you have nobody else there and it's an individual project, take a break. Go grab a bite to eat. Fresh eyes make it easier to revise. Now we got to proofread it. Grammar counts. Why? Because if we have poor grammar, it's going to be distracting. So there's some things vague. Don't be vague. Don't be ambiguous. Use complete sentences. Match plural and singular. And careful with it's, there, and from form, because those aren't caught by the spell checker. And if you're me, I don't like English class. Uh-oh, I got this video. It's going to be up on YouTube. Um, so there's this book called Woe Is I by Patricia O'Connor, and that's what made English actually make sense to me. So I'm just going to go through little examples of what it means to be vague or ambiguous, because in my class, I'm just going to, if you write a report, I'm just going to put vague or ambiguous if you ask me to review it or I'm grading it. So vague. Example, he's a strange looking man. That's vague. It's not wrong, but that's Cyrano de Bergerac. Why is he strange looking? Oh, it might be strange looking because he's got ruffles around his neck. Some people say Cyrano's got a very distinctive nose, or maybe he's got a feathered hat. So yeah, give us some details. Don't just say things that are vague. Give us some details, especially in engineering. Ambiguity. So this is very common, especially with first year students, but yeah, sometimes with seniors too. I rode a brown horse wearing polka dot pajamas. It's ambiguous. Are you wearing polka dot pajamas? Or is the horse? So yeah, make sure you don't have ambiguous statements. Make sure if you're wearing polka dot pajamas, that's what you tell the user about. Now I'm going to expect you in my class to embed figures. So when we have a figure, we have a picture, and it has a caption, and a caption has a number, so that's figure one. And then we always talk about it in body text, and we try to do it before we actually have the user looking at the figure. Why? Because the user is going to be reading. So we say the Scorpion robot figure one is used to teach Arduino about Arduino and closed loop control. Then we talk about different things, and if we say possible uses include helping Post Malone donate Crocs to frontline workers, then we embed that reference in there. But a caption isn't a caption if it just says figure one. We want to say a little something about it. So number one, make your figures big, make it so people can see them, but also make sure your caption has a little information about what's in the figure too. So that's this Scorpion robot top view, and that's more of like an isometric view if we really want to get technical. So maybe I should revise this. All right, so technical reports, we want to keep them concise. A tool we can use to do that are things like flowcharts and block diagrams. And so, yeah, what we can do is we can use these tools that really help us make sure that, yeah, we want to use body text to walk the user through it, but look at all the information that's included in a block diagram so we know who's doing what and how power is communicated, etc. And a flow diagram is great, especially nobody really wants to read computer code. Again, sorry. Um, Probably, yeah, it's up on the web. Um, but what we do want to see is how your computer code is supposed to work. So, proofreading, if we're not being concise, so if you have in order to, just use to. Due to the fact, because. Consider using, just tell people to use. The other thing is use active voice. Yeah, try to just use the word is. And here's a little hint from grad school. If you have the word being in a sentence, you can be more concise. So with that, the keys to technical writing is that it's an iterative process. All reports should have at least 2 iterations. The more important the report, the more iterations you should have. So with that, that's a little keys to technical writing. Look forward to reading your reports. Hopefully you will incorporate this information. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.